Alrighty, friends, welcome back to the final installment of this 2026 mock draft. And as I said, I hope I'll get a chance to do at least one more before we get to the big day here in a couple of weeks. But really quickly, before we get into picks 21 through 32, just going to do a very quick recap. The Raiders do what everyone knows they're going to do. The Jets take the most high potential pass rusher, currently linebacker on the board. The Cardinals take the guy who is the number one rated, always been an edge rusher. And that puts the Titans in a predicament, which is what most people expect. And they are expected to take Jeremiah Love. I do not think that would be the right play for them for the variety of reasons that I laid out. I think let's take the number one receiver in the draft and give our young quarterback that, and then address the offensive line later in the draft. And again, I've said, if somebody's willing to trade up, I've heard, and it's ridiculous that ESPN's saying this, but they're saying it, that somebody might even be looking up to trade up in the top 5 to take a friggin' running back. But whatever. It's possible, I guess. But if there is a trade available and it's not something bad, if something good and we can trade back and improve the offensive line in the first round and still manage to get one of these top receivers or whatever, there are a number of ways it could go. It just feels like there aren't going to be a lot of teams looking to trade up in the top 5. I think once we get maybe towards the end of the top 10 and beyond, we might see a lot of movement start to happen. But it just doesn't seem like this is a draft with a lot of elite talent at value positions where teams are going to be looking to trade up. So let's take the number one receiver on the board, a guy who I see as potentially the next Justin Jefferson. The New York Giants take the top-rated offensive lineman on the board and are finally able to address the thing that plagued Brian Daboll, our new offensive coordinator, for years. They'll have Andrew Thomas on one side, they'll have this dude on the other, and yeah, that offensive line will be significantly improved. The Cleveland Browns, thinking along similar lines, need to protect whoever is going to be playing quarterback for them, and this guy has the traits of a franchise left tackle, so they go get him. The Commanders get maybe the best player in the draft and a guy who can redefine their defense and be a key element in that Dan Quinn style, Caleb Downs from Ohio State. The New Orleans Saints are going to take Ruben Bain, who is an absolute game wrecker in college, and I think he's going to continue to mess up some offensive lines, maybe not to that degree, but he's going to be a force, I think, in the NFL. The Chiefs, who lost almost their entire secondary, take the best cover corner in the draft with Jermod McCoy. I know there are questions. He didn't play last year. God knows I know that. But he's still the top cover corner in the draft. The Cincinnati Bengals need to do whatever they have to do to fix their defense. And let's take Sonny Styles, who is a freak and can be the guy that they can build their defense around for years to come, and a leader on that defense. The Miami Dolphins could go a number of ways, but I see them going defense here with a defensive-minded head coach and taking the guy that many outlets and media people have as the number one corner in the draft. The Dallas Cowboys are very happy because they could provide a good setting and environment to one of the top players in the draft, and that's Jeremiah Love, who could really thrive there and right away. The Los Angeles Rams take a wide receiver, which was a pretty common mock for them even before there was this drama with Puka, which we don't know where it might lead. So they take Jordan Tyson, and then the Ravens also chalk best interior offensive lineman on the board. The Buccaneers get an edge rusher and Akeem Mesidor. He's experienced, he's complete, he's productive, be a good player for them. The New York Jets, we give them this athletic freak of nature that's Kenyon Sadiq, who plays tight end and actually, plays tight end. He's not just a, big receiver, but he is a big receiver too. He's as fast as any tight end we've seen, and he can break tackles. He can he maybe isn't a great blocker, but what tight end coming out of college is nowadays. But he can block as well. This would be a smart pick for them. The Detroit Lions, speaking of smart picks, take a little bit of a risk on a guy who's got as much upside as any player in this draft, and that is Caden Proctor, who, if they develop him, and God knows the Lions know what to do with offensive linemen, we could be looking at him in a few years and saying that's one of the top 2-3 left tackles in the sport. The Vikings take Brian Flores, guy who just fits everything with them. The Carolina Panthers upgrade the offensive line, a guy with versatility who they could put at right tackle. They could put him at either guard position, maybe even center, but he will be a guy that provides versatility and consistency for them and protection for their little bitty quarterback. All right, and then the Dallas Cowboys. Oh yeah, I already did this one. They take an edge rusher who has about as much upside as any pass rusher not named, not outside of those top three. Keldrick Falk has all the potential in the world to be an elite defensive end, edge rusher, whatever, for the Cowboys, and we know that they need one. So I think it worked out the first round worked out really well for the Cowboys. Now, moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's one that I know is going to, raise some eyebrows and some questions and whatever, but it would be the right pick. Ty Simpson out of Alabama. I'm not with the Orlovsky crowd saying that he's better than Mendoza, but I do think that the gap between them is much smaller than the consensus out there. I think, yes, Mendoza is number one. I don't think Ty Simpson is that far behind him, though. In fact, I could see him going earlier than this. I could see somebody maybe like the Jets, knowing that they're going to have to either take him at 16 or trade back to get ahead of Pittsburgh to get him. Now, we know that they're saying to the cameras and everybody that, they're still, for the second year in a row, waiting for 40-whatever-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who won't even hold the ball for more than 1 second in the pocket and doesn't throw it downfield anymore and is a shell of the guy that he used to be. But if they actually want to do something, if Mike McCarthy wants to do more than tread water, then he needs to find his own quarterback, and there's no reason to be waiting for that great draft class of next year that never comes. This is the guy. Now, I know for Steelers fans it might make them uncomfortable because they're going to remember Kenny Pickett, and was he picked 21st too? It was somewhere around there. This is not Kenny Pickett. This dude is... I never liked Kenny Pickett coming out of the draft. This dude is much better. And yeah, we saw... He was, for the first half of the season, Heisman candidate, front runner, a lot of, potential number one pick, and then he fell off later in the season. But if you watch those games, which I did, I watch SEC football a lot, he was not the problem there. I've never in my life seen an Alabama running game that was non-existent. I mean, it had to have... I can't imagine what Nick Saban must have felt like having to watch that. It was ridiculous. It was a non-existent run game. It was an offensive line that is, as always, filled with star talent, but wasn't playing well together. And Ty Simpson basically doing all he can to carry the offense against an SEC schedule, and then even into the college football playoffs and even winning a playoff game. This guy is good enough to be a franchise quarterback for somebody. Like, he is, I think, a more athletic version of Brock Purdy, maybe. Like, and you may have, differing opinions, but he's accurate, he's smart, he he's really he's not super big. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but if you're going to fall in love with the traits of the quarterback, this is not your guy. If you're going to fall in love with the quarterback who can win and complete a lot of passes and throw a lot of touchdowns, this is the guy you want. I think the Steelers could very much immediately turn things around very quickly and do the one thing that Mike Tomlin, as great as he is, and he's been for years one of my favorite coaches in the league. When I heard he was fired, I was hoping with all my heart that he would end up in Tennessee. But this is actually the one way that Mike McCarthy could immediately improve upon where they had been under Mike Tomlin. Is by finally getting the quarterback that had eluded Tomlin in that front office since Roethlisberger. So yeah, I think this would be a smart way to go for the Steelers, and let's give up on all this silly Aaron Rodgers bullshit. All right, the Chargers. Now, there's a number of ways they could go here as well. We know that Justin Herbert getting hit was the biggest problem for them last year, but that was because both of their star tackles were injured. You don't expect that to be the case this year. They could still afford to improve the interior, but they did make a big upgrade by getting, Biotic, I believe, at center, which, again, another move that the Titans missed out on. The Chargers did make that move, so just having the two tackles healthy and an upgrade at center is already going to significantly improve that offensive line. They could go guard here, but with Ione already off the board, I think they might go a different way. Herbert could use more weapons, but what they really need to look at, I think, especially since they just traded for Owe and then just let him go, what is an edge rusher? And TJ Parker. I mean, this draft, the top of this draft, or at least the first round, is filled with guys who could be elite to very productive pass rushers in the league, and TJ Parker is one of them. That's probably the strongest position at the top of the draft this year. The Chargers are getting another one of these guys who could come in and contribute right away, and maybe be a big time force for that defense. And we know is going to be somebody that Jim Harbaugh would love out of the gates. Now, at 23, the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's another interesting one, because there's a really good player still sitting on the board. Many people have going a lot higher than this, and that is USC wide receiver Mekhi Lemon. Now, if this is what happens and this is who the Eagles draft, what's that tell you? It tells you, yeah, they're trading A.J. Brown. But it seems like that's almost a foregone conclusion at this point anyway. They're just having to wait until after June 1st so they don't have a ridiculous cap hit or dead cap hit for trading him. If there was something they could work out before the draft, I'm sure they'd love to do that, but it's just not possible. With the way his contract is structured, it would kill their salary cap if they moved him before June 1st. But everybody's going to be looking for signs. Well, here's a big one. We're getting a receiver in the first round, so we're probably trading away our current number one receiver. Mekhi Lemon is by no means a replacement for A.J. Brown and not a carbon copy of him, and God knows trying to draft one of those does not work, as the Tennessee Titans and the idiot John Robinson, who somehow has a job in football again, they learned you can't just draft a guy that's going to come in and be a new version of A.J. Brown, but that's not what Mekhi Lemon is by any stretch. He is much more of your slot receiver. He did play, I think, mostly in the slot, but he's not tiny. He's 5'11". He's great with the ball in his hands. He's electric with the ball in his hands, and he's actually a lot better than I think people would realize at going up and getting it. He's maybe not maybe doesn't have great size and maybe kind of pigeonholed into that slot receiver kind of category, but he's a guy who really could do a little bit of everything and is outside of, being under 6 feet. He's a pretty complete player. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they took the left tackle with their 6th pick. They are going to take a receiver with the 24th pick. Omar Cooper Jr. is another one. He's a big-bodied touchdown machine. He had the benefit of playing with Fernando Mendoza, but I don't think that should discount what he contributed to that team. He could be somebody that Sanders could just rely on, throw it up, and he's going to get it. And that's the kind of players they need right now. The Chicago Bears. This one seemed like a no-brainer for me. They have a need here. The best defensive tackle on the board in the draft is still just sitting there for them. They're going to snatch him up. I mean, I don't think they even have to think about this if this is the way it lines up. And Peter Woods is still sitting there. Now, I'm not saying he's a great prospect. I honestly didn't watch a whole lot of Clemson, so I can't speak too much to him. I just know he is the consensus top interior defensive lineman on the board, and I got to think the Bears would be happy with him. What did I do? Oh, man. Alright, let me pause for Okay, friends, back again. I apologize about that. I don't know what happened, but one of my slides got deleted. But we are back in business now, and we are ready to keep rolling here. Excuse me. So, the forgotten Buffalo Bills, the disappeared Bills, at number 26. There are a couple of ways they could go, and I've seen edge rusher a lot, especially with the deep group here. I still think, though, they need to give Josh Allen more weapons if they want to get to and potentially win the Super Bowl. DJ Moore was an upgrade, but already I don't know that he was a true number one receiver, and he's getting a little older and maybe was on declining last year, or maybe was just surrounded by so many other talented players that his production went down. I don't know. But whatever the case is, I think Josh Allen would be very happy if they gave him a really good weapon to throw to. And Casey Concepcion, I feel like, is one of the most underrated players in the first round. I've seen this guy play a lot, like even going back to North Carolina State, and he is special. Now, excuse me, he's going to be looked at more as, because I think he's on the smaller side. I think he's like also 5'11", so he might get looked at as more of a slot type guy. But this is a guy who can do everything, and he can catch anything you put near him. He can run any route. He can line up inside or outside. He's got great speed, and you get the ball in his hands, and he can be electric. And I think this could be an outstanding addition for the Buffalo Bills at 26, and great value there too. Now, number 27, the San Francisco 49ers. I think maybe this is a year that they finally go ahead and say, the Trent Williams thing is, he's nearly 40 now, and they still haven't worked out his contract as of the recording of this, so there's that. And, even if he is able to play, can he stay healthy? And I think this is the year where they finally go ahead and use a first-round pick to get the heir apparent to Trent Williams, and the future blindside protector for Brock Purdy. And Caleb Lomu is really one of the better. He's not maybe among the elite guys at the very top of the draft, but as I said, most of those are right tackles. Caleb Lomu is a guy who can be your blindside protector and play left tackle. He played left tackle in college. And given, where he's going, I think it would be a perfect situation for him where he could, potentially learn from Shanahan as well as Trent Williams and not have a lot of pressure to play that spot right away. He could kick in to guard maybe for the first year if Trent Williams is healthy and re-signed. But I think this pick just makes all the sense in the world for a lot of reasons. At number 28, the Houston Texans. Now, honestly, this was one that I was conflicted about. It feels like more than most were. Most people doing mock drafts kind of seem to go the same way with the Texans. I still think they should really prioritize fixing the offensive line just because, and I said this when they did all they did last year, when they totally revamped the offensive line, is what most people called it. I said that just because you changed everything doesn't make it necessarily better. Change isn't always upgrade. And last year's offensive line was worse than the year before. However, with all the guys that are currently off the board, there aren't a lot of good options for them. I mean, there's the guy from Clemson, the left tackle from Clemson, who's kind of looked at as like a second tier, probably more of a second round Blake Miller, I believe. They could go that way, but I think they've already got a young, at least promising left tackle. They also did upgrade the right tackle spot with Braden Smith. They need help along the interior, but given where they are, given their tendencies, given D'Amico Ryans and what they hang their hats on, I'm going to go the same direction as the many of the others that I've seen and give them Caden McDonald, a guy they, by all accounts, absolutely love and want and would be exactly what they would want to get there at 28. So, hey, let them have it. 29, the Kansas City Chiefs with the second of their first-round picks. Now, this is one where, do they go edge rusher? Do they add another corner? There's still some good ones on the board. I think the smart thing to do here would be similarly to what I said about Josh Allen. Let's give Patrick Mahomes a good, reliable target. Now, Denzel Boston, I understand. He does not fit the typical Chiefs receiver profile. I understand that. But they have not had a ton of luck with that lately. I mean, Rashee Rice is one who's turned out to be pretty good, but can he even stay on the field? Can he stay out of trouble? Can he stay healthy? And they drafted the sort of ultimate speed Andy Reid kind of player, the record breaker from at the combine in the 40, and so far he has not panned out, and I'm skeptical that he really will. And I definitely don't think he's ever going to be their number one receiver and might not even be able to be number two. This guy, on the other hand, absolutely could be. He's a guy who could also play some of that Travis Kelce role because he's got such a big body and could be your, X receiver. You could move him around kind of like what you did with Kelce. And I think Mahomes would absolutely love to have another guy that he could just, chuck it up and let him get it and score touchdowns. He's not going to burn by anybody, but they've already got a couple of those on their roster. Now let's give him a big-bodied, strong possession receiver who I think would be a great addition for them. At number 30, the Dolphins with the second of their first-round picks now. I thought a lot about this one and went a few different ways. In the end, I looked at their current depth chart as it stands, and look, I'm just going to give them, I'm going to fix that secondary. That's what I think they should do. If the board actually shakes out this way, I think this would be the right way to go for the Dolphins. You take Delane at number 11. You take Terrell at number 30 here. Terrell, I do think, is more of a straight, could be a great man coverage guy. Delane, I see, as more of a versatile piece, either, and both of these guys probably could play inside, outside. But if they can fix that secondary, then they'll probably be a little bit ahead of the game. And I know it's not really helping Malik Willis all that much, but Jeff Hafley, again, is a defensive-minded coach. He will want to be much better against the pass than what they were last year. And these two guys would be immediate, significant upgrades at an area where they were bad before. Now, the New England Patriots. This is another spot where a lot of these edge rushers could go. Could be Cassius Howell. Could be the guy from Missouri. There are a few pretty good options still on the board. But, look, I know a lot about Mike Vrabel, and I get the feeling that if this dude's still sitting there, he's going to snag him. And that's C.J. Allen, middle linebacker. I mean, he is a Mike Vrabel kind of player. And it also addresses a need for them. I mean, they've got Robert Spillane, but, that's really all that they have at the off-ball linebacker position now with Dr. Gibby gone. And Allen would be an immediate upgrade over both of those guys. I remember the draft when it was Vrabel's first or second year when we drafted Rashaan Evans. Or no, we drafted Harold Landry towards the end of the first round, and then traded back up, I believe, into the first round to draft Rashaan Evans. And it's like C.J. Allen's is like a modern Rashaan Evans. He's much more athletic, much more, can drop into coverage and do all the things that you want your linebackers to do these days. But he is a Georgia linebacker who will hit and tackle, who's smart and instinctive, and I think is very much a Mike Vrabel kind of player. Now, with the final pick of the first round, the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. Where do they go? There have been a lot of opinions about which way they should go here. I've seen edge rushers again for them and a lot of things, but I think, they lost their bell cow, who was their MVP of the Super Bowl, who carried them to that Super Bowl when Sam Darnold was having a so-so game, and I see a guy that's a lot like that in Jadarian Price. And, maybe this, some people might think this is too high for him. I don't. And I think it's a perfect fit as well. He is a powerful, hard-running, made in that Kenneth Walker kind of mold. He is a big, strong, fast, bruising back, one-cut kind of guy. And we also don't know how long Zach Charbonnet will be out. I mean, he was hurt towards the end of the season or in the playoffs, so he, there's a good chance will not be ready for the regular season. So without, especially if he's not ready to go, they will definitely need another running back. But even with Charbonnet there, I think Jadarian Price will give them the exact same kind of dynamic that they had. Not to say that he's going to immediately be as good as Walker out of the gates, but it would give him that same kind of dynamic that they had with Walker and Charbonnet, adding Price to the team. So, those are my thoughts. I'm sure many of you hate them and will let me know about them, but hopefully some of you like them. Hopefully some of you like the way I picked for your team or our team. And either way, whatever you thought about it, let me know, and I appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe and all that crap, and I'm going to try to be around more and spread my thoughts to the internet even more, because God knows everybody needs that, right? We all need to be seen all the time these days. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and share your thoughts, comment, like, share it, tell me what you think. All right, talk to you again soon. Love you, bye.